So hey, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. And in this video we are going to make a 3D popit using p5.js in JavaScript. So it's going to be super simple. It's just around 60 lines of code, 65 lines of code, not much. And you can customize on the popit. You can do lots of stuff. You can change the color of the popit, and just look at the documentation of p5.js, add lighting, camera, all that stuff. Camera is going to be there in this tutorial, so you don't need to add camera, but yeah. So this is my code tab right here. I have an index.html file and a style.css. In the CSS file, there's not going much. It's just so that the canvas is lined up at the top right instead of there being a bit of gap. And then there's the index.html. I have the latest version of p5.js. I am using the DOM add-on and the min add-on. So as you can see here, it should somewhere say yes. So I'm using version 0.9.0. So you can just use this link in your code and it would work. And by the way, all the code and everything would be in the description if you want to check it out and don't want to type the code on your own, but that's your choice. And now let's move on. So next I have linked my CSS file. I have set the corrector set to UTF-8, and in the body I am linking my JavaScript file. So now I'm gonna show you. I have a live server running on Chrome. It's just a blank screen, a white screen. So it's nothing, it's just a white screen because I've put nothing in the code. So yeah, let's get started. So we also have a object file. It's just a half sphere, which we are going to use to make it to get the 3D thing. And this will also be in the link in the description. So what I'm going to do is I am just first going to write the setup function. So the function setup is a p5 function that runs only once at the start of the program. So this will set everything up, and this will only run once. It won't loop every frame. So I'm just gonna put a comment here saying setup function, and then inside this is going to be one single line of code. So first I'm gonna write the syntax for it. The syntax is function setup and a parentheses and curly braces. So that's the syntax for the setup function. Now inside this, we're only doing one thing for the whole entire video, and we're just creating the canvas. So in the canvas, that's where everything is going to happen. So we're gonna set the canvas, create a canvas, and set the canvas's X size to our windows. So our Chrome window or browser windows width. So window width, and we're gonna set the Y height or the Y size to window height. So our browser height or Chrome tab height. So window height. And we're gonna add one more thing, and it's going to be the Webgl 3D renderer. So it's going to be so it's going to be all caps. So Webgl and this lets P5 know you're rendering in 3D instead of 2D. And now this should be pretty much set up, and if I show my Chrome tab, there should be no changes whatsoever. It should be the same thing. There should be no changes because we've done nothing, and we're creating a blank canvas of the window width and window height, and it has no color, so we cannot see it. It's actually there, but it's just the white color, so we don't see any changes. So now let's give it a color. So to give it a color, we will use the draw function. So the draw function is a p5 function that loops every single frame of your program. So it's a thing that will go on every frame and just do whatever it says inside the function. Oops, I wasn't clear. So the syntax for that is the exact same thing. So function, draw, and then curly braces, and that's the same syntax. Now in this, all I'm gonna do is give the canvas a background. So to give the canvas a background, you use the background function. So background, you can give the background any color, but I like the color 220 for all the values. So I'm just only going to write 220. And now it's a bit more gray. You guys might not see the difference. I'll just show you guys the difference by changing it back to white. And now let's see if you guys see the difference. So it's a bit more whiter now. And when I change it back, so when I change it back, as you see, it changed to a more grayish color. It's a very subtle difference. So I'll switch back to my code tab, and now we have reached a milestone in our project. We have the basics, very basics of our project set up. So next, we are going to add in camera control. So we're gonna be able to control our camera. It's going to orbit around the popit, and we're gonna be able to just see the popit from different angles and stuff. So to introduce that in, first of all, we're gonna make a variable. So I'm gonna make a comment called variables. I'm gonna make a variable, and I'm gonna call it let sensitivity. So this sensitivity variable will help us give the sensitivity for the x-axis rotation, y-axis rotation, and the z-axis rotation for our camera. So you can bump this up to like 6 if you like really sensitive cameras, or put it all the way to 1 if you like a really slow cameras. 3 I think is the perfect middle point. It could be something else for you, but I like 3. So now to introduce in the camera, we're gonna use the orbit control function. So orbit control function is pretty obvious. It lets you orbit the center of your Webgl area, and it lets you move your camera around or orbit your camera around the center. So it's called the function called orbit control, and that is it. And inside that, you can give optional parameters for sensitivity on X, Y, and Z values. I like to give it a sensitivity of 3, so that if I want to change the sensitivity ever again and change it for all of them, because I want it to always be equal, instead of changing this to, for example, 5 and going on every single one of these and then changing it, I can just change it here and it will change for all the things. So that's the benefit of making a variable. So let me go back to the Chrome tab. Now we do have the camera. It is moving. I am moving it right now, but you can see nothing over there because there is no 3D model inside to like view and orbit around and look at it. So let's add in a 3D model. So we are going to make or introduce in another function. It's the preload function. So this p5 function is used to load stuff like images, sound, object files, 3D files, etc. before the program runs, so that you're ready with everything you're going to use. So I'm just going to give this a comment. So preload function, and the syntax is the same thing. So function preload, and then just that. And now inside this function, all we're going to do is load in our obj file. So at the top first, inside the variables, we're gonna make another variable. You can name it anything, but I'm going to name it my obj, so my object, and we're gonna give it no value yet. But in the preload function, we're gonna set the value of the my obj variable to our 3D file. So now the variable my obj will store our 3D file. So to make it do that, we have to use the load model function, which is just used to load in 3D models inside your program. So as you can see, I have the half sphere model right here, and I'm just gonna do load model and the file name. So I've named it halfsphere.obj, obj, and that's going to just name our function, I mean our variable, the halfsphere.obj. Not name it, but like add in the model inside this variable, so that if we ever want to use this model, we can use it twice, thrice, and it's stored inside this variable. So we have to now draw the 3D model. So to do that, inside our draw function, all I'm going to do is type model and then our variable name. So what this function does is just draws 3D models onto your screen. So that was 2 lines of code to just introduce in a 3D model. It was so short. So now here comes the surprise. I'm gonna switch to my Chrome tab and let's see what we have here. Okay, there's something wrong. Let me switch back to my code tab. Let's see what's wrong in here. So I did something wrong, but what could it be? So, oh my god, I wrote orbit control instead of control. So I had to write orbit control instead of control. So right here, you see orbit control, not control. Let's now try seeing the Chrome tab. Ooh, it's a half sphere. So this would have been a full sphere, but we have cut in half. And this is like a popit. So like you know how poppets have half sphere, kind of? If you've ever seen a poppet in real life. So it's like a half sphere. And because we have the orbit control, if I drag my left mouse around, I can just look at the poppet from different angles. So this is another milestone for our project. We have introduced the 3D model, and that is nice. So now this 3D model looks a bit blank to me. Let's add in some color to the 3D model. So I'm gonna switch back to the code tab, and now we're gonna make a variable for later. It's just going to be called value, and we're gonna set it to a number of 71. So we're gonna use this later. You guys will know what we're going to do with this later, but nothing doing right now, only one thing. So to give the model a color, we're just gonna write fill. So fill the model with a certain color. So the color I liked was a dark pinkish color. So it's gonna be like fill. So the color I chose was 252 value. Oh, oops, I forgot the comma. Value, so 71 and 243. So there we have our fill color. So now if we look back at our popit, we would see that it has a dark pinkish color. Nice, I like this. So now to make the inside of a popit different color than the outside of the popit, we're gonna do one more thing, which is going to be to first of all add in another model for the inside. So the inside model, and the inside model will have a different color than the outside model. So the inside one will be a lighter color, I'm pretty sure. So we're just gonna copy this fill, and instead of having the same value variable, we need it to be a different color. So we're gonna make another variable and we're gonna call it value2. So this variable is going to be set with a number of 144. So now if we look back at our Chrome, you can see it's a bit lighter than the older one, but now you can't see the older one because the older one is being overlapped by the newer one because we're drawing the newer one later. So if you see, we're drawing the newer one after the older one. Oops, first I have to change that. That is what I was saying. It doesn't look that much like. So now you can see the light color. So if you see, the lighter color is overlapping the older color, so we can't see the older one. So to fix that, we're gonna move the newer one pixel down, so it's going to go inside the popit, the outer shell of the popit. So we're gonna switch back to the code tab and we're gonna translate. So translate is a function which lets you translate the center of origin of the canvas. So I'm gonna translate it 1 pixel down in the y value. So the x we want the same, the y we want it to be -1 instead of 0, and the z we want to be the same. So now if we see it, you can see the old darker color came back, and then inside you have a more brighter color, so it looks much more appealing to the eye than before. So it's much more better. I like this. So now here comes the fun part. Here's where we are gonna introduce in the clicking, which will let us flip the popit, so like pop the popit. So if we switch back to our code tab, we'll introduce in another p5 function called mouse clicked. So I'm just gonna do make a comment called mouse clicked function. So mouse clicked function, and inside this function we're gonna add the clicking hitbox and everything. But first, this function runs when the mouse is clicked. It should be pretty obvious by its name, but I was just giving a definition so that you guys just have it more clearly. So the syntax is just the basic function syntax that you always have. So mouse clicked, curly braces, and yeah. Now inside this function, we're gonna check if we're in the hitbox of the popit we have. So to do that, we're gonna write an if statement, and if our mouse is X position, so we're first gonna check the left side, I'm pretty sure. So if the mouse is X position, so mouse X, this p5 variable lets you know the mouse's X position is less than width divided by 2, so is less than the center of the canvas plus 56, so a little bit more than the canvas, but 56 divided by 2. So if the mouse X is less than width divided by 2, but plus 56 divided by 2. So 56 is the diameter of our popit, and 2 is just to get the radius. So we're dividing it by 2 because radius is the half of a diameter. So that's what we're doing. So now we're gonna do the same thing for the left side. This was the right side. I'm pretty sure I said left before, but this is the right side. So I'm just gonna copy this same thing, but instead of less than, it's going to be greater than, and instead of plus, it's going to be minus. So this should be the left and right side done. Now let's just copy this whole thing and let's do it on the y-axis, means up and down, and then we're just gonna change this to mouse Y, and also this to mouse Y, and instead of width, I'm gonna change this to height, and instead of this width, we're also gonna change it to height, and the rest is going to stay the same. Oops, I forgot G here. So the rest is going to stay the same. Now, here's where we're going to detect what way the popit's facing and how we want it to be. So we're just gonna add in our one final variable for this whole program, and we're gonna call it angle. So let angle equal 0. So for the start, we're just gonna set it to 0, and it has no value. So we want the popit to face in the direction of the angle. So inside the draw function, I'm just gonna add at the top, after the orbit control, I'm just gonna add rotate X, so rotate the things under the rotate X function at the degree of an angle. So rotate the X by this angle. So you'll see how this helps later. So now all we're going to do is add we're just gonna add a single line. We're gonna change this later. So we're just gonna add a single line and call this angle equals radians. So we're changing the number to radians because the default p5.js angle mode is radians. You can change it to degrees, so you don't always have to use the radians function, but I just like to use the radian function. It's your choice, but radians 180, so 180 degrees. So now if we switch back to our Chrome tab, now if I click only in the radius of the popit, if I click anywhere else, nothing is happening. But when I click in the radius of the popit, it flipped upside down. So I can't invert it back because when I'm clicking, it's always setting into angles radians 180 instead of switching it again and again. But I can just simply reload the page. So here's where I see a problem. If you've ever seen a popit before, which is dual color, for example, this mouse is my finger, so this will pop this, and this dark part will be pushed up, and on the other side, according to the other side, it should be inside and the light side should be outside. So for example, I'm pushing this in, so push, and then the light side should come out and the dark side should go in. But this is not what you see happening. The dark side stays out, which does not at all make sense. So we're gonna just do something to first, so that we can click it and it will always change our rotation instead of always reloading to changing it back to angle equals radian 0. So we're gonna add a if, and if the value, so here where the value variable comes in, so if the value is 71, which is the default value, so value equals 71, then we want the popit to set the angle to radians 180. And we'll also change value to 144 and value 2 to 71. So value 2 to 71, which will flip the colors and give us the effect of me pushing it in. Now what if the value is not 71? In this case it's 144. We're just gonna write an else statement. So else do the opposite of this. So just change the angle to 0, the value to 71, and the value 2 to 144. And this should be the finished code for our popit. So this is a very exciting part. Okay, I'm just having a parentheses error. Yes, that's right. And I'm just gonna shift everything back so that everything's aligned. And yeah, that should be aligned. I like things neat and tidy in my code. But now this should be our finished popit. So this is an exciting part. Now, for example, I'm pushing with my finger from this side. The dark side goes in and the light side comes out. And that is exactly what happened just right now, which is really exciting. Now, another exciting thing is we can now flip it back. So, oops. Why isn't it working? So let me inspect and see if there don't seem to be any errors. So what seems to be the problem? Oh, I see no problem in my code. Guys, just wait a single second. I'm just looking for a problem in my code. So I don't see any problems. I wonder why it's not flipping back. Let me reload. If I touch this, it is not flipping back. Ooh, do I have any errors? Let me just inspect this. I am unable to inspect. I don't see no errors. So what could be the problem? Oh yes, now I can see everything. So I don't see any errors in the console. What could be the problem here? What could be the problem? Guys, I'm just gonna pause my video and I'm just gonna be right back when I figure out the problem. Guys, I just figured out the problem, and the problem was in value equals, there's supposed to be 3 equals instead of just a single one. So now it should work. Yes, now as you see, it works and I am happy with my results. It's just cutting it off because I had the inspect before. So I am happy with my results. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoy your new popit. If you don't have one, now you have one for free, and the code will be in the description. If you want like a base for your popit, so like real popits have a base, in the code in the description there will be the code for the base. It's just going to be a simple piece of code, and yeah, so that was pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye, guys.